A very good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I don't know where it is that you're joining this episode on the Life Signatures Radio, which is a daily show, a daily podcast where we talk about purpose, productivity, and resilience. If this is the very first time that you're listening to me, those are the very three things that we talk about. And again, sometimes we talk about some other topics in between that are related to those three. And once in a while, sometimes we bring in an interview with someone or some people on a particular topic that is also related to those three people who are practitioners in those three areas. They are people of purpose, they are people of productivity, they are people of resilience. And so we do share with them one or two conversations, and we share that with you. And in this series, we are in the middle of a series. We're talking about, in this series, the potent power in being patient as you regress. We just come off of a very short mini series where we're talking about the 4 or 5 things you shouldn't do when you're regressing. But now let us continue and talk about the positives. What should we do when regression hits our way? Stay tuned.
Welcome to the Life Signatures podcast with Lawrence Namale. Lawrence is a life coach, author, and keynote speaker who loves to tackle different topics on purpose, productivity, and resilience. His mission in life is to awaken all your boundless possibilities available in you. Life Signatures podcast is dedicated to bring to reality every single person who knows that deep down in their gut, there's got to be more to life than this. And now, here is your host, Lawrence Namale.
So we've been talking about this thing, and let us just continue to talk about regression. You see, we say that the second great reason as to why we regress has to do with our brain. We talked about why it is a risk not to risk, and let me just recap that for you a little bit. We would rather stay with what we don't know. We would rather stay with what we know than to be disappointed trying to be better, trying to do anything new. It's in the brain. We do not want to regress at any cost. We don't want to try and risk at any cost. It happens in many areas of life. It happens in relationships, marital relationships at most, and we want the best of the best, but we're kind of unwilling to regress in order to get the best. Because we've said that regression is in the equation of success. So what we need to do is to embrace the idea that at times when you begin something new, you're going to face regression. And when regression comes, it doesn't mean it's failure. Regression, sometimes people say that failure is simply feedback. When you get regression for the very first time, when you've attempted to do something, it's basically feedback. It's not failure. It's feedback telling you that this probably is not working the way it's supposed to work. Or you probably do not have the capacity to maintain this. Or the timing probably is not right. Or the person that, or the people you're supposed to work with, probably they're not the right people. Okay? But I'm not talking about marriage here. So we end up in a state of apathy at worst, but at best we end up hating to regress because we have started something new and it's not working. And as much as we hate to regress when we're attempting to be better than what we are or what we are doing at the moment, it is just, there's nothing that is going to grow that is devoid of regression. I'm sorry to say. There is nothing that grows without a negative graph, a trough in the graph. We are living in we're living in a fallen world, and we are imperfect. So all forms of growth and development, at least you should anticipate some seasons. That's a key word, some seasons of regression, especially in the initial stages where we regress before an upturn comes our way. There will be those moments. Even if it's in the ministry, or you're doing what God has told you to do. God tells Moses, go and tell Pharaoh to let my people go. What happens? Regression. Immediately the people themselves, they turn against Moses. They say, Moses, you've come to bring us trouble here. Now this guy is telling us to do. There is regression immediately. Even in God ordained stuff. We need to be keen enough. We need to be very keen. I know in our brains, like I said earlier, our brains want to maintain status quo, or if we are changing, it has got to be something that enhances status quo, something that guarantees certainty, guarantees safety, guarantees continuity. Otherwise, we fight it. But regression is not something that guarantees certainty, doesn't guarantee continuity, doesn't up the status quo. It does the exact opposite. But it doesn't mean that it's failure. So what should we do? We're going to discuss what we should do today, and then tomorrow, and the next day, and the next day. But today, when a regression comes in our lives, I think number one, what we need to do is to celebrate when we regress. I know it sounds stupid. That, I'm regressing. Listen to me. That's not exactly what I mean. It comes from identifying the fact that to regress is to progress. You cannot regress when you did not take a step of faith in the direction of your dreams. I know nobody wants to start by failing. But do not be fooled by what they call failure, especially if it's in the inception stages of something. That should be expected, and that should be factored in. You should be forewarned that you might face some failures, face some setback, face some crisis, because probably you don't have all the pieces together. Probably you do not have all the information together. Probably you don't have all the resources together. Probably the timing is not right. Probably the economy has not factored in that thing. The guys who started to do video channeling platform some years back, the broadband technology had not been discovered, and they gave up. Next year, YouTube did it, and the rest is history. Are you getting what I'm saying here? Celebrate a regression. Not that you're going and saying, I'm regressing. But notice that regression is feedback from, it's like a push from your pull. It's like a pull from your push. We learned that from Mike Tyson, that allow the pull of life to respond to your push. That's what Mike Tyson said. And as a matter of fact, some strong and progressive startups have gotten through a period of failure. They have gone through these moments of a blip, moments of a regression. It is a time of loss of time. It's a time of loss of resources sometimes. It's a time of loss of friends, sometimes a time of loss of loved ones, sometimes a time of loss of other trusted people. But if you have not planned for this, you will not celebrate the regression, but you might end up giving up what you're doing altogether. You might end up just parking and saying, this thing doesn't work, because you did not anticipate the regression. I am not saying you plan for the regression or you plan to fail. No, I'm saying you plan to win. But expect some setbacks, expect some challenges. When they do come, you're not looking at the angle of saying, it doesn't work, I quit. But you're looking at the angle, say, okay, I was waiting for you guys. Now that you are here, how can I circumnavigate you? Because I know what I'm doing or what I started is the right thing. This marriage of mine is the right thing. But there is this misunderstanding. I know we had started on this path, but there's this misunderstanding that has come. Now that it has come, how best can we work it out? Is it up to me? Do I need to change? Do I need to change the way I look at things? Do I need to onboard your ideas? Do I need you? Do I need to be patient with you as you change? As you go through the metamorphosis to be to the standard that it's supposed to be. The setback comes. You embrace the setback, you celebrate the setback, and you look for ways of working it out and not giving up. Why? Because you anticipated and you expected it. If you're not planned for this, you'll not celebrate the regression, but you'll end up giving it up altogether. But when you do, it is like a farmer who has just dug up his seeds at the moment that they are sprouting. You planted, waited, nothing's coming out of the ground, you go and you dig up the ground altogether. You've spoiled it. You've killed it. Some things are growing in the invisible that we don't know, even in the negatives that are happening. So at least stay on course and celebrate when you're regressing. And I know it sounds very weird, but understand this is what I'm communicating. I'm communicating that you need to anticipate some setback initially, and when it does come, celebrate the fact that at least you took a step, and now you have feedback, and now you need to examine what can you do to circumnavigate this setback, this feedback that has come. Tomorrow we continue talking about this, but until then, bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to Life Signatures Radio. If you enjoyed today's show, subscribe to Life Signatures Radio on iTunes, Stitcher, or visit our website at lifesignatures.libsyn.com. Life Signatures Radio, fresh, clean, and inspiring.